Why am I speaking out? I am speaking out because I believe the women in these situations are oftentimes overlooked and undervalidated. And it is my goal to bring awareness to these women. I hope that by speaking out, someone somewhere can overcome and they can learn something. I'm always appalled by the advocates of pornography, the ones who are advocates and who fight the term addiction. I understand that it can be debated. I've read both sides. But when you've heard the stories that I have, when you've seen the tears that I have seen falling from my own eyes and from the eyes of the women that I've met, and when you've seen the families breaking apart like I have, it does hurt. And it is a big deal. And that is why no one can ever argue if pornography hurts or if it doesn't, because in my eyes, it does hurt. That being said, I'd like to go ahead and delve into the devastating reality. What are we really dealing with? To do so, I asked 5 women who did not know I was presenting this. I did not ask them to embellish. I did not ask them to over-exaggerate. I simply said, describe to me what your discovery day was like. The discovery day, for those of you who don't know, is the day when the woman or the wife finds out about the sexual addiction, perhaps it's just a pornography use, maybe it's progressed to infidelity, maybe there's an affair, whatever it is, we call it the dreaded discovery day. Here's what some of the women had to say. I went straight numb, and I bounced back and forth between that and self-hate for being stupid and not seeing it. I also felt unworthy of fidelity, like there must be something wrong with me that would make it just impossible for anyone to be faithful to me. And then I'd go numb again because I couldn't stand those feelings. Another woman said, I experienced true physical shock, blood leaving my extremities and feeling shaky several times. My body would convulse and react as if someone was literally hitting me in the stomach, and I felt crazy, and I felt needy. I felt the breath sucked right out of my chest, and I fell to the ground and sobbed and moaned sounds I have never heard myself make before. I felt an overwhelming emptiness. I felt physically ill, and I couldn't eat for days. Quite honestly, there were days that I wanted to curl up, die. There were a few times I resorted to cutting myself to numb the indescribable pain that I felt. These women are women just like me, and they are women just like you. And there are a lot of women on the line today who are actually in the same situation, and I'm sure they're either nodding their head, yes, I feel this way, or they have tears streaming down their face, yes, I feel this way. So for the first half of this course, I want to talk about how you, the women on the line, can do this, how you can overcome. I wish there was some magical answer for you, just to make it all go away. I mean, wouldn't that be great? In a 1-hour webinar, I could just tell you everything you need to know to heal. I could give you everything you've ever needed to know to heal your marriage. I wish that I could take all of the pain and all of the confusion and the isolation and shock that you feel. I wish I could take it away. But what I have learned is that healing and recovery takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy, and yes, it takes a lot of therapy. So before I start, first and foremost, it is my hope that if any of you are enduring this, that you find a recovery program that you like, you find a therapist that you like, and you begin healing. I cannot tell you whether to stay married or not. I cannot tell you how to be intimate with your spouse again. I cannot tell you how to repair your marriage. Again, I am not a licensed professional, but what I'm going to tell you today are a few simple ways that you can begin the healing process on your own. I'm going to share 4 simple truths, 4 simple truths that I like to call actions. These are things that I learned when I was in the thick of it. The first is believing. The second is trusting. The third, overcoming. And the fourth, surviving. Let's get into the first, believing in yourself. With every drop of shocking truth that was trickling into my life, and during those times, it felt endless. But I felt as if every ounce of esteem, confidence, and love for myself was depleting. Thoughts like, how did I not see this? What have I done to deserve this? I am such a fool for not seeing it. It was right under my nose. How did I not see it? Thoughts like, I am ugly and I am worthless. And the most common thought was always, why me? One evening, just a month or so after my discovery day, I disclosed in confidence what was happening in my marriage to some trusted friends. And I'll never forget when my friend was standing in her kitchen and her husband was there cutting salad or a cucumber or something, and he cut me off. And he said, Jacy, you know that this is not a reflection of you, right? Surely you know this. I broke down in tears. But I feel like it has everything to do with me. If I would have been prettier, or perhaps if I would have been sexier, or more wild in the bedroom, or more physically fit and toned, maybe if I would have been a better housewife or a better cook, maybe if I would have said things differently, maybe if my breasts were bigger, then maybe I wouldn't be in this situation. Why was I not enough? What was he searching for that I ever so clearly was not? It's been almost 4 years since that difficult conversation in my friend's kitchen. And let me tell you something, it has taken that long for me to completely and fully believe that his words were right. That my friend's statement was true. This is not a reflection of me. His choices were a reflection of something else. His choices were simply that. They were choices that were attached to something bigger than I could understand and to something that was present way before I ever came into the picture. My small breasts had nothing to do with it. Sex, as surprising as it sounds, had nothing to do with it. My imperfections, as we all have, had nothing to do with it. It wasn't about me. And to the women on the line, it is not about you either. So instead of stewing about all of the things you aren't and all of the reasons you don't think you're good enough, I invite you today to start believing in yourself again. Spend quality time thinking about all of the things that you are. Rediscover all of the wonderful things that you are. Surround yourself with people who love and care about you. Spend time doing things that you love, whether that's walking, crafting, maybe you like to write, maybe you love to read, maybe you love hot yoga. Whatever it may be, work on building yourself up instead of tearing yourself down. And I'd like to invite you all to do something. And I think this can actually apply to everyone who's on the phone call today. Every single night before you go to bed, as you're preparing for bed, and every single morning when you wake and you're preparing for the day, I think it's important to look into the mirror and look at ourselves for who we are. And no matter what's happening in our lives, whether it's sexual betrayal or whether it's loss or financial hardships or whatever it is, look at yourself and say, this is not a reflection of me. I am a woman of worth. No one, nothing will ever be able to take that away from me. And please don't let anyone or anything, yes, even sexual betrayal, ever take that away from you either. Because this is not, it never was, and it never will be a reflection of you. Number 2, trusting yourself. Just yesterday, I was at lunch with a friend of mine, and she's enduring this. She's going through it firsthand. And she said to me, I don't get how you trust again, Jacy. I think if I were to get divorced, I would never get remarried. I wouldn't be able to trust anyone else. How are you able to do it? And I'm going to tell you exactly what I told her. Trust yourself. Because no matter how hard you try or how much you want to, you cannot control the choices of anyone else. No magic wand will guarantee that my current husband won't hurt me someday, or that he won't lie to me, or that he won't become addicted to pornography, or that he won't be unfaithful to me. There is no guarantee that my worst nightmare won't come true again. But the unfortunate reality is I have absolutely no control whatsoever over the choices he, or anyone else for that matter, will make. But what I do have control over, something that is so beautiful, I have control over me. And I have control over my choices. And I have control over trusting myself. Why do I trust myself? Because let's say something bad does happen. Let's say that my husband does make a poor choice. Or maybe you're on the line and your husband is currently, or your spouse or your boyfriend is making poor choices. Because of my solid foundation, because of the faith and trust that I hold deep within myself, and this is something that I don't think I had 4 years ago. This is something that has been developed. Because I've been able to do this, I know that I can and I will make it through whatever comes my way, no matter how horrible or unbelievable or life-changing it may seem. Other people's choices will not define me, like I said earlier, nor will they have the power to destroy me. Once I know how to trust myself, it is then that I become more capable and skilled in trusting other people. And this is something I'm learning firsthand right now with my husband. After everything I endured, after the extreme and the shock and type of betrayal that I went through, it's really hard for me to trust. It's extremely hard. And to be totally honest, I don't trust my husband completely. I don't feel like I need to because I trust myself and I trust the ability I have to discern. I use the fine gift of discernment that I have been given. So how do I know? How do I know if I'm trusting myself and if I'm able to trust my husband, let's say? I feel safe in his presence. I feel comfortable with what he's saying. Yes, absolutely. But what I look for more than words are actions. I feel comfortable with what he's doing. I watch for actions and I watch for reactions. I watch for how he's treating me and I listen to my gut and I take it very seriously. By trusting ourselves, we will have the extraordinary strength to truly believe that no matter what happens, no matter what our future holds, no matter what choices other people in our lives make, and no matter how difficult it may be, I believe that we will come out undefeated and stronger than before. Tip number 3, overcoming. If you know anything about the grief cycle, you will know that its components are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, unacceptance. Depending on your personality, if you're like me, you may bounce around that cycle like a ping pong ball on steroids. What I went through made no rhyme nor reason. I don't think the grief cycle is something that you just pleasantly go around and then once you hit the acceptance, you've moved on with life and you're healed. Grief and overcoming and healing, I believe, is a never-ending process, and it's something that I'm still working on. If you're like me, I tend to overthink everything. Over and over and over again, I dissect, I replay, I circle around and around. I tend to fret and I stew and I just wait for the miraculous solutions I've created in my mind to happen. If I would have done this, he would have treated me better. If I do this, they will finally see that I'm a good person. If only this would have happened, things would be different. I should have been this. I should have been that. What I should have done was, please don't should on yourself. And yes, That should sound like what you think it sounds like. Don't should on yourself. It's pointless. It's messy. It's stinky. Dwelling in the past will only keep you from progressing. You don't have to keep spinning in this downward spiral of what if. You can find a way to control the impact that this has on you. There is a way to get out of this. It just takes learning how to navigate through your new reality. So whether you are in recovery with your spouse after addiction or betrayal, or whether you're separating, or maybe you're going through a divorce, you've got to find balance. Identify where you are in the grief cycle. Am I mad? Am I thinking and fretting too much? Am I in total denial? Am I accepting my new reality, even though it's really, really hard? Am I sad? Where am I? Once you do this, and it's okay to feel. It's okay. I'm not saying avoid feeling and just brush it under the rug. It's okay to feel it. But you've got to think to yourself, what's next? And then you've got to proactively work on getting there. Work on building yourself back up to that place where you have unyielding strength and worth and determination. And I'm not talking about believing in yourself. I'm not talking about trusting yourself. I'm talking about actually overcoming and surviving, which is what we're going to talk about next. Don't stay in one place in the grief cycle for too long. If you do find yourself there, seek help. Seek help from a therapist, a professional, somebody who can help you get out of the tailspin. And remember to focus on what's next. Surviving. This is what I like to call the pioneer woman mode. And this is an analogy that my therapist told me in his office, Maurice Parker. I was sitting on the leather sofa in his office, and I was blubbering mess, and I was crying. And when he told this to me, it was as if someone, took a 2x4 and just hit it over my head. And it has made so much sense to me ever since. I have shared this with so many other women, and it just makes sense. So let me explain what it means to survive. Soon after Discovery Day, depending on the safety and risk that the misbehaving husband has put the wife in and the children in, some pioneer women will choose to separate. I personally separated right away. But even if you're still living with your spouse and the severity isn't worthy of immediate separation, or maybe it's not worthy of separation at all, the principles that I'm about to share with you can still apply. So the first and most important thing we need to do, and again, this is metaphorically speaking, become a pioneer woman. Pack up your wagon, load your small children in, and start the arduous journey across the plains. Life continues on. Even after infidelity, even though it seems like your life has fallen apart, the earth still spins. You have got to keep living. Don't sit around waiting for and expecting your life, your situation, or your spouse even to change. This is going to be a long trek, no matter how you look at it. So it's important that you get busy yourself and you carry on and you live. Once you do this, a couple of things can happen. And this has happened to a lot of my friends. Their husbands, they're moving on with life. They find out about the infidelity or the addiction or whatever it is. And they say, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to fight for recovery. And I want you to come on this journey with me. We're going to be able to do it. And some of the husbands, unfortunately, they stay behind. They don't want to go. This could be because they aren't, choosing recovery. Maybe it's because there's another person, someone else that they, built a relationship with and they've left. And no matter how these pioneer women look at it, they have to go alone. The choice is already made. You have to survive without him. The second thing that can happen is the husband can choose to come, and maybe he's not super committed in his recovery, or maybe he's going in begrudgingly. Unfortunately, there are parts of the journey where nothing makes sense, and this is what we call limbo. And most of my friends who are enjoying this, I would say, are in limbo. They're living with their spouse. They found out about the addiction or the infidelity, and they are trying to figure out what it all means, and they're trying to recover. Your husband may be adding more weight to the heavy hand cart some days, and other days, maybe he's lifting it and he's helping you. You're riddled with confusion. This is why limbo is so crucial, because just as the pioneers didn't cross the plains overnight, neither will you. All of this takes time. And depending on your situation, some people it may be a few weeks, some people it may be 20 years, and then you've got everything else in the middle. Limbo is personal, and it is crucial when you're in limbo to watch, again, for action and recovery and overall, how am I feeling with this person? Is he in recovery with me? The last choice, or the last thing that can happen, is he can commit to real recovery. And I have friends who are going through this right now, and I will tell you something, it is miraculously beautiful. He can work real recovery, he can be sincere, and he's going to pull the heavy hand cart with you, and together, you are going to fight to get across those plains. He's going to make sure that your children are safe, fed, protected, healthy, comfortable. His primary focus is going to protect his family. And he will surprise you and everyone else in your camp. It's really amazing. Just the other day, I had a friend text me and I said, "How are you? What's happening in your life? How are things going with you and your husband?" And she wrote me back. And it's probably the first time in a couple of years I guess it's been about 2 years since I've known her, but the first time in a couple of years that she's texted me and she said, "It's going awesome. It's like I'm living with a new man." Recovery works, and it is real when you're dealing with someone who really wants to change. She said, "I am so happy and things are going so good. I never thought that I could feel this way about my husband again." So for me personally, I waited 6 months in limbo before the decision was made to leave the man I loved on the trail. The choice for me had become clear. And so I forged ahead alone with my child by my side. I had become a pioneer woman. To my own astonishment, I made it to the valley. Rude and malnourished, albeit, I made it. I survived what I thought was the unthinkable, the impossible. What started as a party of three ended a duo. Was I disappointed? Yes. Did I have different hopes and expectations of my life? Absolutely. Did I mourn? Is that even a valid question? It was the most awful and lonely and horrific time of my life. Was this how I envisioned my life would be? Not in my wildest dreams. But it was. This was my new life. To the ladies, if you are in the thick, turbulent, rocky nature of limbo land, and you are crossing the plains, whether you're alone, whether you have your husband with you, I want to tell you that it's going to be okay. And that it's okay to float around for a while. Don't dwell on the past. Don't try to imagine the future, because that is mind-boggling. And focus on the now. Do what it takes to survive. Do what it takes to cross those plains. Do what it takes to not only survive, but to thrive. I promise you that you will make it. I can't guarantee how long you'll be on the trail. I can't guarantee what's going to happen on that trail. But you will overcome and you will survive. a few years ago, about 4 years ago actually, when I was in the thick of it, I was, on the side of the trail with a broken wagon wheel, and I was bawling and couldn't go anywhere. And somewhere within me, I found this unimaginable strength that I had no idea existed within me. And I got a little dog tag. It was a little metal dog tag. And we had all the little stamps. And I stamped into this dog tag, Pioneer Woman. And I put on the bottom of it, chin up. And then later in my journal, I wrote, I am a pioneer woman. This is what I've been dealt. So buck up, Jacy, chin up, and keep on going. The special women on the line, if I can offer you anything, it would be the simple truth. You can do hard things. Get into a recovery program. Remind yourself, even if you have to tell yourself 30 times a day, that you are not a failure. I think that's one thing that is so common in sexual betrayal and betrayal trauma, is that we believe that somehow we failed. You are a woman of worth. You are courageous and resilient. And there is hope for you. We're going to switch gears a little bit. And I hope that helps the women on the line, and I hope that also helps the loved ones on the line to understand a little bit of where the women are coming from. We're going to talk about now of how you, the loved ones, can help. I have essential tips of how you can help shoulder the heavy burden that these women are forced to carry. Whether it's your daughter, maybe it's your daughter-in-law, maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's your granddaughter, maybe it's your niece, maybe it's a member of your congregation in your church. Whoever it may be, I feel like I've got some pretty good tips for you to help you navigate through this very difficult time. The first is educate yourself. Second is treat her as a widow. Acknowledge and validate. Temper your expectations of her. And lastly, respect her decisions. By being here today, you are off to a very great start. Honestly and truly, it means so much to see that people care. That you care, that you're here, that you're wanting to become educated. Thank you for being here. There are other books, blogs, websites, recovery programs that you can get involved with. Patrick Carnes and Jennifer P. Schneider are nationally recognized sexual addiction therapists. Pick up any of their books, they will educate you. There are also organizations like Fight the New Drugs, the Togetherness Project, which is my organization, Women for Decency, and again, there are a plethora of recovery programs. So do some research, find what works for you, and get educated. And also, I want to invite everybody on the call to seek therapy. And I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but it is so important, because if you are finding yourself to be hurting, or you feel confused, or maybe you're shocked, and you're angry at the discovery of a loved one's addiction, not your husband, but someone else in your life, and you don't know how to cope with those feelings, seek help. Because the 1 hour or the 2 hours of guidance that you will receive will be worth every penny that you pay. They will help you navigate through your own grief cycle, and they will also help you navigate through this difficult time with your loved one. So never be too proud to see a therapist. Okay. The next thing that we're going to talk about is treat her as you would a widow. When addiction, betrayal, and infidelity are discovered, it feels like your life has been obliterated. Literally. And I'm sure the women on the line can attest to this. In the eyes of the women, it feels like her life and her husband and everything she thought she had and crumble down. It feels like death. If divorce is the next step, there is no ceremonial service for the dissolution of a marriage. There is no eulogy that celebrates the good times. There isn't much peace, comfort, or hope when you're in the process of separating a family. No one ever wins in divorce. Family and friends don't fly in from all over the nation to mourn with you, to comfort you, and to help you. You don't get many well wishes, or hugs, or meals, or neighborhood candlelight vigils. So how can you treat someone like a widow when there is no funeral? You start by giving service. How do we give service? And I apologize, my slide show's a little bit behind. You start by giving service. You offer to watch her kids. You do her grocery shopping. You mow her lawn. You rake her leaves. You run any errands for her. Bring in meals. Even the littlest acts of kindness are monumental during this time. But it's important to note that you don't take offense if she says no, if she doesn't respond to your generous offerings. Oftentimes, many of these women tend to hibernate and we tend to retract, and we're embarrassed and we're ashamed, and we don't want people to know what we're going through. So please remember that although she's not helping you, or so sorry, you guys, I've got a little technical difficulty. Okay, we'll just do that. So it's so important that you check in on her anyway. The message that you are near her, that you love her, that you support her, shows so well when you give service. Okay, the next topic is acknowledge and validate. So this is where a lot of the meat of the presentation is going to come in. Don't brush her or the situation that she's in under the rug. So often we think that if we avoid the conversation and pretend that it's not really happening, that it'll just go away. This is error thinking, and it is so very harmful. Don't minimize her pain. It is real. Something is terribly wrong in her life. Please acknowledge and validate it. How do we do this? We do not offer premature counsel. It's a great way to get started. When you find out that there's addiction or infidelity, don't try to fix the situation. It's not your job. There are trained professionals in this specific field who can help your loved one navigate through this very difficult time. Your job is to love and support. But please don't offer premature counsel or unwarranted counsel. So how do you love and support? By withholding your opinions. Remember that although the misbehaving person has hurt and betrayed your loved one in unimaginable ways, and yes, you may feel angry towards that person, please keep your negative opinions to yourself. Why? Why should you keep your negative opinions to yourself? Because even though this person has hurt your loved one, this man is also the man that she gave her heart to. This man is also the man that fathered her children. He was there when she brought life into the world. This is a man whom she built her hope and her dreams and her home with. And even though it seems like it would be just so easy for her to let go and move on and maybe feel about him the way you feel about him, it's on the contrary. I'd like you to know that love doesn't just disappear overnight because of infidelity or addiction. It just gets a whole lot more complicated. Keep your opinions to yourself. If you're feeling angry and upset and sad or disappointed, go back to step number 1 and again, seek therapy. The next aspect of this is learn to be less uncomfortable talking about the uncomfortable. I think we all know that sexuality in general is a very private matter. Yes, we live in a very sexually charged world, but for the most of us, we're not comfortable with parading around talking about sexuality. Throw in the realistic details of sexual addiction, infidelity, betrayal, and you'll find yourself in a very uncomfortable and foreign territory. This creates an even larger problem. When we avoid talking about it, it creates an even larger problem, and then this is where the shame and the humiliation and the embarrassment continues to feed, because nobody dares talk about it. We have to learn to talk about it. So how do we do this? How do we talk about the uncomfortable without being super uncomfortable? We start by listening to the women. Depending on the severity of the addiction or infidelity, words like sex, porn, masturbation, cyber sex, orgasms, strip clubs, prostitutes, brothels, homosexual sex, BDSM, maybe even bestiality, STDs, and even child pornography. These things may become much more common in her vocabulary. Please don't shy away from talking with your loved one because she uses these heavy words. It is heavy. It is very heavy. She knows that the words are heavy, and she doesn't like the words. But these aren't just words anymore. These words represent what has polluted and quite possibly destroyed her marriage. Try your hardest not to look at her with disgust or tell her that you can't handle what she's telling you. It's also important to note that your loved one may use derogatory terms, and she may use foul language. And I'm saying this with a smile on my face because I said things to my therapist, I said things to my church leaders, I said things to my parents, I said things to my friends, and I said things to strangers on park benches that respectable women would not say. Please be patient with your loved one. This is her way of coping. This is her way of dissecting what's really happened and figuring out what it all means. She already feels disgusting. She already feels humiliated and ashamed as is. Please listen to her with an open heart and open your arms to those types of conversations. However, at some point, you can only listen for so long. You have to respond. This is basic human interaction. So how do we navigate through these uncomfortable conversations? And this was one of the specific questions that was asked before this webinar started. How do I navigate through these conversations? I invite you all to learn to be empathetic. Brene Brown is a fantastic resource when it comes to helping loved ones through trials and being empathetic. And we could go on about this for an hour, and we don't have time, but look up Brene Brown. Anything you can find on the web, I'm sure you will love. She describes empathy as the ability to see, hear, and feel the unique world of the other. You can start by being empathetic by not at least seeing people. What do I mean by this? So often, when women come to you, or anyone comes to you, and they're going to tell you something serious, they're going to tell you something difficult, they're most likely scared out of their minds, their heart's pounding, they're nervous, maybe they're crying, they're feeling vulnerable, and they say to you, my husband has a severe pornography addiction. Please don't say, well, at least he's not in love with another woman, or at least he didn't step out on you physically. Someone says to you, I am getting a divorce because my husband was unfaithful. Don't say, at least you've only been married 5 years and you only have one child, or at least you found out sooner than later, right? I had family members, I had friends, I had neighbors say these types of things to me. And I understand why they do, because I've said these things to other people too. I think it's natural. We want to look for the positive in the situation. When those things were said to me, well, at least you've only been married 5 years, and at least you only have one child. It felt like I had to pull the dagger out of my chest. Like, what does it take for my pain to be enough? When you release someone, you are essentially shutting them down, making them feel like their pain isn't painful enough to be validated or acknowledged. Instead, practice empathy by being sincere and honest, even if that means by being totally honest and saying something like, I'm really so very sorry. That must be a very difficult and lonely place. I don't understand what you're going through. I don't understand what you're enduring, but I will most definitely try. What can I do to help you? This response may be generic. You know what? Maybe it is generic, but it demonstrates empathy. You're leaving the question open-ended so that she can respond. When you at-least someone, she has no way to respond. Okay, thank you. You're right. I didn't think of it that way. When you leave it open, how can I help you? She's going to feel more comfortable opening up to you. And that's the next aspect of this. Being open yourself. No one wants to approach the person who has life all figured out. No one wants to express what's really happening in their marriage to the person who has the perfect marriage. I've been talking a lot about this with my friends and the people that I'm meeting. I think we're doing ourselves a disservice by blogging perfection, posting perfect pictures on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. It's like we're trying to get as beautiful as we possibly can. We take our children out, we take these gorgeous family photos in the most beautiful setting. We snap a 1-second picture perfect shot, and then that's what we display in our home. And don't get me wrong, I have these types of pictures displayed in my house too. I love these types of pictures, but I don't like when those are the only things that we're trying to display. Because in reality, none of us have a perfect life. And I'm not saying air your dirty laundry out for everybody to see. I'm not saying tell everybody everything that's ever been wrong and just, splatter it around like paint and then people don't know what to do with it. I'm saying when you're in a conversation with somebody who's going through a difficult time, or you're in a conversation with anybody, I think it's okay to be open. Talk about the difficult times. Talk about things that hurt, whether it's loss or illness or unexpected financial hard times. It's okay to share those parts of life with other people. And as my friend Amy says, when you drop the guard that you have up to protect yourself, and this image that you're trying to portray to everyone around you, the most beautiful, the most open, and oftentimes aching people will be drawn to you. They will come to you. And that is when the most fulfilling types of friendships can develop. When we're open and when we're empathetic, we are essentially saying, I can hear this. I can be in this space with you. This is hard. It's about things that I'm not comfortable with. I'm not comfortable talking about STDs. I'm not comfortable talking about prostitutes. But I can be in this space with you. Tip number 4, temper your expectations of her. Wouldn't it be so great if we all responded and reacted to and processed and recovered from difficult times the same as everybody else? Wouldn't it be so great if there was some checklist that we could just go down and say, okay, you've experienced every emotion, now you're supposed to be healed? I think this is Eric's thinking, and I think a lot of people on the outside expect your loved one to pick back up and heal because that's how you think that you would be. The reality is, Of all of the women I have met on this journey, I have learned that everybody responds and recovers differently. Some women may experience this type of life change, whether it's addiction or betrayal or separation or divorce, whatever it is. They may bounce back fairly quickly. You know what? They may bounce back very quickly. For others, however, it can be more difficult to do. We all have different recovery skills. Some women may fall deep into depression, and they may need continual therapy for the rest of their life. They may need antidepressants or anxiety medication. They may never believe in love again. I know women who struggle with this every single day. While other women may only need maintenance-style therapy. Maybe they don't need medication. Maybe they have no problem getting remarried again, and they just kind of look at this like it's an interesting memory, you know, their past, or whatever's happened, it's just something that's happened, and they are able to move on. However your loved one responds to a new reality, please temper your expectations of her. And the same goes for spiritually. If there are ecclesiastical leaders on the line, if there are family members of faith on the line, please, I beg of you, please let your loved one grieve and cope spiritually without feeling guilt and shame from those around her. I will be the first to admit that sexual betrayal not only it makes you feel like you've been stripped of your worth and your confidence, it makes you feel like you've been stripped of, you know, the life that you thought you had. But for many of us, it also challenges our faith. And I remember begging and pleading to God, no matter what faith, you know, a woman belongs to. I remember pleading to God, please take it away. And then I couldn't finish the prayers because I was so hurt and I was so devastated. So let her redefine her relationship with God, with her religion, whatever that may be, at her own pace. She'll do it within her own time. Again, this is her journey. Let her recover from it the way that she can. And lastly, it's so important to respect her decision. She may decide to stay in the marriage, and you know, she might decide to leave. I have friends who some have stayed with their husbands, and their husbands have been with multiple partners. Their husbands have spent hours and hours and hours on pornography sites. Their addiction is real and it is severe, and they have stayed. And it is beautiful and miraculous and amazing when recovery happens. I have also had friends who get a divorce because of addiction alone. There was nothing more. And I don't want to say more and minimize just addiction, because to me it's all the same and it all hurts. But my point is, as many women email me and they say, Jacy, I'm losing my relationship with my family because they can't seem to forgive my husband. They're so mad at him. They're so angry they can't forgive. Or I have women email me and they say, Jacy, my family's so angry at me because they can't believe I'm getting a divorce, but they don't know how bad the addiction really is. The truth is, only she can make the decision that's best for her, even if you think it might be different. Even if you can clearly see the toxicity, or you think you know what would be best. Respect her decision. Remember that it is not up to you, and this is her journey. So please don't ruin your family relationships because you don't agree with her choice. It is hard, and it is difficult, and she most likely never thought she'd be in this situation, but she is. To go ahead and conclude, I'd like to finish with a quote and give you some information. Henry Nouwen says, I think that this summarizes so beautifully how you can help. Being with a friend in great pain is not easy. It makes us uncomfortable. We do not know what to do or what to say, and we worry about how to respond to what we hear. Our temptation is to say things that come more out of our own fear than out of our care for the person in pain. Sometimes we say things like, well, you're doing a lot better than yesterday, or you will soon be your old self again, or I'm sure, honey, that you will get over this. But often we know that what we're saying is not true, and our friends know it too. We do not have to play games with each other. We can simply say, I am your friend, and I am happy to be with you. We can say that in words, or with touch, or with loving silence. Sometimes it is good to say, you don't have to talk. I am here with you. I am thinking of you, praying for you, loving you. Aching women suffering the lives of, aching women suffering the loss of the lives that they thought they had are all around you. And sexual betrayal and addiction is a big deal, and it hurts. But these women are also the most capable, strong, resilient, and understanding women I have ever known. They are full of a greater compassion, one that I don't think most people have. They are living proof that we can overcome even the strongest of trials and the most devastating of hurts. They are the epitome of what it means to do hard things. But they cannot do it alone. They need your help. And it is my hope that today, after sharing with you a glimpse of what the women go through and some tips and ideas of how you can help them, that you will be able to navigate through these situations easier and more comfortably than you would have otherwise. And if you watch closely, this is the last thing I want to invite you to do. If you watch closely to the woman, your loved one, you will notice that she will bloom. She will bloom into something so beautiful. And it might not be what you expected. It might not be the type of flower you would have envisioned. It might not be the height that you thought the flower should grow to. And maybe she won't be the bright color that you thought. But she will be beautiful. And she will overcome. And she can do hard things. And if anything, I'd just like to tell all of you that there is hope. Even among something that is so difficult and hard and challenging, she can overcome, and there is hope. Lastly, if you would like to learn more about the Togetherness Project, which is my organization, you can email me at jacy@togethernessproject.org. For a copy of this presentation, we've got a really cool online platform. You can text the word Jacy to the phone number 878787. It takes a couple of minutes for it to pop up on your phone, but it'll give you a link. You can click on the link, you can go there, and you're going to get the last half of this presentation, but you have to register by entering your email. But don't worry, I won't be sending you spam or anything like that. And again, to be part of the Togetherness Project for women on the phone, there is hope. There's a community. There's a whole sisterhood going through exactly what you're going through. So please email us. Check out our website. If you're interested in donating time or funds or receiving more information about our local chapter group, which are going to be happening in the spring. We're going to be having sexual addiction therapists help us with recovery tips and advice and thoughts and lessons. If you're interested in this, we're so excited about it, go ahead and email me again at jacy@togethernessproject.org. And then if you'd like to learn more about me and my personal story, I blog a little bit more personally on my website at mynameisjacy.com. Again, thank you so much for being here. And I just want to give a big heartfelt thanks to Nanny and Russ and RJ for making this possible. It is an honor. And I am so grateful to be a part of this community. And I would never change what I have been through for a moment in time, because had I not been through what I had been through, I wouldn't be here learning and growing with all of you and from all of you and hopefully creating a little bit more awareness. So Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacy, for that very moving webinar. And also thanks to all that participated today. I see that a lot of you had some questions, and I'm going to ask Jacy, is it okay if they email you some of their personal questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you did not get your question answered today, be sure to send that email to Jacy at the togethernessproject.org.